everyone, and welcome to a celebration of the 2026 International Day of Education. I am Armand Guéry, one of your co-anchors of the podcast supported by the Learning Planet Institute, and together with my co-anchor Eliza Prosperini, we will be covering the Learning Planet Festival. Hi, Eliza.
Hi, Armand. Yes, today we are recording from the heart of Paris at the Learning Planet Institute, talking about the Learning Planet Festival, which is taking place from Wednesday the 21st to the 28th. The Institute is hosting the Learning Planet Festival, organized in partnership with UNESCO. It celebrates the 8th anniversary of the International Day of Education and brings together international voices to discuss how education can evolve and how knowledge can be shared more openly, more fairly, and more effectively across all borders. The institute we are in is a place where people from different backgrounds, we've got researchers, educators, artists, students, and activists come to work on how we learn and why that matters right now. The Learning Planet Institute is also a place that is dedicated to questions rather than answers. And this is exactly what we are here for today, asking questions. The Institute also focuses on learning as a collective, lifelong process, a process that can help us respond to major global challenges, which will be addressed today, from climate change to social inequality.
Well, and today's Learning Planet Festival program is extremely interesting. Today we're January the 22nd, and the main theme is Future of Learning with Youth in the Age of Artificial Intelligence. There will be a talk about empowering learners to build better futures that will be held. And in this talk, 8 speakers will be invited to think about ways to empower younger generations to make a change. This is significantly important in the context of artificial intelligence, the climate crisis, geopolitical tensions growing, wars and deepening social divides. All these concerns bring fear and raise questions amongst Generation Z. Some of the speakers will also join us throughout the podcast. Like, for example, we will have Hillary Cremin, professor at Cambridge University. We will also have Francisco Vera Manzanares, a Colombian climate activist. And we will also be joined by Dr. Pauline Martinot-Roy, a medical and scientific director who is going to talk us through climate change, education, and mental health. Shortly after, the conference would also be followed by 3 workshops. So let me get this straight. I have to read this quickly, not to miss any detail, but there will be guests that will be invited to join the Peaceful Futures Lab workshop. Here, interaction is key between participants, as speakers will invite them to find solutions together to the pressing barriers and challenges facing peace building. And finally, the session will explore the transformation needed over the following 5 to 10 years while using the innovative tools of the lab. But Eliza, I think we also have 2 other workshops, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, I have the program with me right now, and indeed, we've got 2 other workshops. The first one is called Meaningful Open Opportunities for Discovery for Climate Action, MOOD, and means to address real-world projects connected to climate change and sustainability, while learning social-emotional skills and systems thinking along the way. Then we have the Apprendre et s'épanouir workshop, which will focus on learning and thriving in a connected world. This workshop will take a step back to ask a fundamental question. Are learners really equipped to flourish in our interconnected, rapidly changing world?
And while all these themes will be talked about, the Learning Planet Institute is going to set the stage for the official launch of the Learning Planet Academy. It is an initiative aimed at equipping learners of all ages with skills, knowledge, and capacity to face today's global challenges. Please stay tuned as President and founder of the Learning Planet Institute, François Taddei, will talk us through the launch. And what you can also expect is a few moments of reporting from our journalists who are attending at this very moment conferences and workshops. They will pop over to give us reactions and insight from the events.
So Armand, let's kick this off with Olivier Bréchard, Learning Planet Festival organizer, who might want to talk to us about the significance of the event and the International Day of Education. Olivier Bréchard, you are Director of the International Relations at the Learning Planet Institute, and you're in charge of the Learning Planet Festival. We're celebrating the 8th anniversary of the International Day of Education. How did it go from the International Day of Education to this week-long festival?
So, we made a partnership with UNESCO in 2019 to create an open alliance for the future of learning. And we wanted to bring together institutions like UNESCO, OECD, Club of Rome, together with universities, together with cities and governments, which kind of our upper ground. And we wanted to bring them together with networks of schools, of students, of activists, of social entrepreneurs, of teachers, all these people to work together to transform education. And we thought, well, there's an International Day of Education. We should bring them all together for this day, for celebrating, learning to take care of oneself, others, and the planet. It's a good moment for all of these players to share their ideas and their projects. And so we created with UNESCO the Learning Planet Festival. In 2020, it was one day at UNESCO headquarters. But soon after, we had so many partnerships. Everything is about collaboration. You know, we create a platform. We invite our partners to come and organize their own events. And soon there were so many events. So this year, we're thinking that there's more than 750 events over a bit more than 1 week taking place all over the world. And so that's too much for one day. So the celebration of International Day of Education on 24th of January, in fact, is the week before and after.
And you also mentioned that during this festival, there's a collaborative work, that it's a lot about dialogue, talking with many people from different backgrounds. Now it's been 8 years since this festival has been held. I'd like to know what kind of project was created after the festival. Is there any project or anything that was built that came from the festival?
So every year when you have so many different players coming together and sharing ideas, you see that there's some topical issues that needs to be addressed. So one of them, a few years ago, one of the first things we did is we created a youth network of young people from all over the world so they can join forces. And from this youth network, then we created a youth design challenge, inviting young people not only to share their ideas, but really come with projects, share their projects, and then we can train them, mentor them, and make some of these projects a real-world project, transforming a university or a school. But there are many others. We have friends from Bangladesh, and every year during the festival, they start a conversation in the north of Bangladesh, in a very poor area, with schools in Grenoble Academy, and they discuss about climate change. And the first session is during the festival, but then they do this for 6 months. And this happens every year. So I think it's the 3rd or 4th year of the Connected School program by Friendship Bangladesh again.
And how do you connect, I guess, the Learning Planet Institute with other institutions or any NGOs? How do you find those people who are willing to collaborate with the Learning Planet Institute?
So I've met with François, the founder of the Learning Planet Institute, in 2009, already working both of us in international education. So you get to know people, you have to meet them, you go to some other summits. And after years of doing so, well, you invite people. In fact, the biggest invitation was during COVID. You know, the year before we did an event at UNESCO, and then we had to shift for the next festival and do everything online. So we sent invitation to all our networks. Would you like to do a 5 minutes, 10-minute interventions and share what you're doing? And everybody said yes. There's a strong dimension. So what we do is we get to the people who are very interested in transforming education. We invite them and they do so. And after some time, we ask them, you are Teach for All. We are talking with the headquarters. Can you invite Teach for India or Teach for Afghanistan or others to also do things? You have a Global Student Forum, but can we invite some of the students somewhere? So from getting with the most engaged people at the beginning, and then slowly asking them to mobilize their networks, and then they are doing the work.
Olivier Bréchard, thank you very much for joining us. You can find, obviously, the Learning Planet Festival program on your social media as well as on the official website. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. The festival is also a great opportunity for the Learning Planet Institute to launch the Learning Planet Academy. We are thrilled to welcome François Taddei, president and founder of the Learning Planet Institute, to discuss this with us.
François Taddei, thank you very much for being here, for accepting our invitation.
I was just thinking that you talked about the Learning Planet Academy and how you're launching it today.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, what should we expect from this academy in the next few months, years, like concretely? What is the academy bringing to education?
So that's a very good question. Thank you. What we'd like to do is the same way we've designed, this very building was co-designed by students for students. We've designed the local diplomas like masters and PhD that we were giving here. And now we're trying to co-design the content and the way that academy is going to work. To just give you one example, what we mean by co-design. For instance, we are going to announce today a charter for that Learning Planet Academy. So we could have written it on ourselves. But what we did is we've invited youth from everywhere in the world, even those that didn't know nothing about us, to tell us what would be the student charter for a planetary academy. And we gather, their answers in a process that is inspired by Model UN. Maybe this simulation of the United Nations where different students can play the role of different ambassadors of different countries. And we invited them to give us the ideas they will propose in that framework for a planetary academy charter. And we got tens of pages of answers. And thanks to collective intelligence and artificial intelligence, we got now, the backbone of that charter. Okay, so the core of that charter was written by the students for the students.
Okay. Are some big topics standing out of this charter?
Yeah, equity, inclusion, accessibility, the fact that students should be a part of the governance of this academy, that that academy should provide them with what they need to develop as human beings. Another important dimension is they talk about planetary commons. And so planetary commons, natural commons, for instance, is the climate, the biodiversity. Those are things we all need because, we all live on this planet and we all have this in common. There's also intellectual commons, like science, education, and there is digital commons, like open source or Wikipedia. And their point is the students involved in this academy should be nurtured by those commons, but should also nurture those commons in return. Okay, so instead of trying to be the best students in the world, they should aim to be the best for the world. And the way they can prove their learning is not by just passing exams and getting grades, by contributing to the commons. And there is, a well-documented contribution to the commons they've made, and that's the way we know that they are part of this academy and they are, on their way to be this best version of themselves for the world.
You just talked about artificial intelligence. Today's program, today's festival program is about learning with the youth in the age of AI. So I was wondering what kind of stance, what kind of role does AI have in the academy?
So first, I think everyone knows is what AI is today or is using it one way or the other. As a learner, as a teacher, as anyone that wants to get answers to questions quickly. I just was invited to make a report for the French government on AI in university. And it's quite clear that, there is some teachers and professors that are afraid of cheating. Okay, that's one concern. And I think it's deeper than this. Okay, we have to transform what schools and universities are for in the age of AI. So it's not just, can we take the classical curricula and make sure students do not cheat? I think it's how do we transform the curricula and make sure that students are adapted to today's world, which includes AI. And so they have to be critical, for instance, about AI. They have to know how to use it. They have to know when not to use it. And they have to know the complementarity between their emotions, their humanness, and the technology. And they have to learn to co-evolve, for instance, their ethics and the ethics of machines. So they have to learn to have those dreams that are ethical in the sense that they do not become the nightmare of others. And they have to make sure that the AI development, and some of them would be involved in those developments, should not become the nightmare of everyone else. Okay, and that's very important because if you have a misalignment between intelligence and ethics, we know historically that this ends very badly. Okay, it did happen like this in the past, and now we have a technology that may escape our own control.
But what kind of, I totally agree with you, but what kind of, I guess, tools, of measures does the academy implement to keep the balance between artificial intelligence not replacing human intelligence, but rather being a tool or accompanying people's dream, as you say?
So there are several places where we use AI. Just to give you one example, we have developed an AI interface to help students find their ikigai, so find meaning, finding purpose, using the Japanese concept of ikigai, which basically is that intersection between what you love, what the world needs, what you know or what you can learn, and whether other resources you can find in your environment, locally or globally. And basically, that's one way where, we could do this face-to-face, but we could not scale that. But know that we have built a chatbot that is not there to answer your question, but is here to question you. Okay, we can create something that scales. So that's good because we can do this for thousands, maybe millions of students, and we can even look for complementary ikigai. If what you care for and what you love and what you want to contribute to is aligned with what she wants to do, then maybe you can join forces to, build a podcast, for instance, or organize something together. And that's the idea. So that's one use. Okay. For the misuse, I think what we're trying to do is we try to train our students not only to think creatively and cooperate and build their ikigai, but also to avoid nightmares. Okay. And so they have, for instance, one of the use of AI is we have another AI we call WeLearn that has read every scientific paper there is on sustainable developmental goals. That is open source, open access. And so the AI reads it for you, synthesizes it for you, gives you the reference, and helps you to go deeper if you need to. Okay. Same for teachers. It can help the teachers that are teaching, say economy, physics, history, or whatever, to use sustainable developmental goals examples integrated in their course very easily. Okay. So that's ways of using AI that lower the barriers. But this technology can also question you about the possible unintended consequence of your own project.
Is that something that other universities, more traditional, thinking about La Sorbonne or other universities in France, are kind of missing or not, or failing to adapt to the 21st century challenges?
I think that, in a fast-changing world, if you're not adapting, you're going to be obsolete before you know it. That's a rule of evolution. Okay, that's my evolutionary background speaking. It's not that universities are not evolving. Okay, they're evolving, but they're not evolving as fast as the world is changing, as fast as the technology, as fast as the students' needs. Okay, so the question is, what can they do? What's interesting is that universities do research on nearly everything, but very rarely on themselves. Okay, which is somewhat puzzling, no? And so what we do here is we do a lot of this R&D, but we do it in an open source way. So we offer it to anyone that wants to partner with us and want to integrate some of this method, some of this culture, some of those ideas, some of this possibility to co-design the future of their diploma with their students. So, in that way, I know many people in many universities that would like to change. What is rate limiting at the moment is more institutional inertia and to some extent funding. But, it's always easier to keep doing the same thing. Okay, changing is hard. But the good news is that every university changed, at least during COVID. Suddenly, overnight, they had to do something different. Okay, and now they know that it's possible. And basically, we believe that university can be laboratories of our planetary futures. Because if you look at them, they are the only place that have research in all disciplines, students interested in every major challenges, a public service mission, a local embeddedness, and an international network. So universities, there is no other institution that has these 5 dimensions. Okay, so if the universities transform themselves, then they can learn to transform the world. So university can become lab of the world of tomorrow if they accept to enter that new paradigm, which is not the disciplinary paradigm, not the best in the world paradigm, not the you learn in class paradigm, but sort of lifelong learning and learning to solve real-world challenges and mobilizing collective intelligence and learning to be best for the world rather than best in the world.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, as you may have heard, universities are not evolving as quickly as they should be, according to François Taddei. But Eric Guillardi, one of the speakers at the Empowering Learners to Build Better Futures, has just talked, and he may have a solution to improve climate change education amongst teachers. Our reporter Lucie Lepellec is here with us to discuss this and go deeper. Hi, Lucie.
Hi. Yes, I just went to the conference, like you said, which was structured around 3 main themes. So there was mental health and well-being, then peace and democracy, and finally climate change and the environment. And during the climate and environment panel, I also had the chance to speak, like you said, to Eric Guillardi. He's a French oceanographer, a climate scientist, and he also teaches at the University of Reading in the UK. But in this panel, his message was mostly about education and how to make climate change issues accessible for everyone. Because climate change isn't only a scientific issue, it's also a question of how we talk about it, how we understand it, and how we teach it. As president of the Office for Climate Education under the auspices of UNESCO, Eric Guillardi argues that teachers need much more support to address climate issues properly in class. And that's why he called for a clear target, mobilizing around 50 hours for training for teachers so they can better understand the major stakes of climate change and feel equipped to explain them to students. So I asked him what would those 50 hours actually consist of.
Okay, so there's a mix of learning about climate and climate science. So that takes a number of hours, maybe a dozen hours, to understand the basics of how the climate works, the different mechanisms, understanding climate change, the impact on societies, on ecosystems. So there's quite a body of knowledge. Then there is hands-on practice, and they'll have at their disposal a number of items to make experiments, and we're putting them in the situation where we would like them to put their students after. So this is called active pedagogy. And so it's training them with those different approaches and different skills in running what we call evidence-based or quality climate education.
So, an ambitious target to better equip teachers to talk about climate change in the classroom.
Thank you very much, Lucie Lepellec.
Reimagining the education system to better respond to environmental concerns is at the heart of the festival. One of the most important voices in that matter is Hillary Cremin, professor at Cambridge University, who has joined us to talk about the importance of rewilding education. The Empowering Learners for Better Future conference has just ended at the Learning Planet Institute. Here is an extract.
Okay. We've been hearing some terrible things. I would invite you to just stand up, move around, shake about a little bit. Change the energy.
You are a professor, the head of the Faculty of Education at the University of Cambridge, and your work focuses on peace education, conflict transformation, and rethinking the purpose and structure of schools.
Yeah. Exactly. And what I've been noticing as well is that you actually released a book last year called Rewilding Education, Rethinking the Place of Schools Now and in the Future. I guess I have 2 questions. My first question is, could you please elaborate or explain how you came about writing this book? And my second one is actually, does this have anything to do with rewilding? Were you influenced by the rewilding environmental phenomenon that is happening in the United Kingdom? I'm thinking about Isabella Tree. Were you inspired by her work?
Absolutely. And so rewilding is a metaphor. So yes, I'm saying that schools need to ground much of education in nature and in what we can learn from nature, the seasons, the cycles, the ecosystems that we are part of, that we shouldn't dominate. We're part of ecosystems. So certainly we should be learning in and through nature. But for me, rewilding is a metaphor. So in the same way that in farming we need to move from agro-business, factory farming, the destruction of the planet, pesticides, the criminal ways that we treat animals, we need to move from that over to permaculture, organic farming, thinking about working with the cycles of nature rather than trying to dominate nature. in the same way, we need to think about education as an ecosystem of different learning opportunities. Move away from the monoculture, one size fits all. We need 80% of our young people to read this grade by the end of this age group. End of stage testers, high stakes exams. We've commodified and we've commercialized and marketized the education system, so that education is about money, it's about economics, it's about a job, it's about extraction, exploitation. Education should be about the beautiful and lifelong journey of engaging critically and with passion in the subjects that matter the most to us. So that's why I'm saying we should rewild schools in the same way that we need to rewild our food production systems.
And have you got any of those, you're talking about initiatives and programs led by maybe young people. Do you have such a program? Are you implementing something concretely with young people currently?
So my PhD was in peer mediation. So over many decades actually now, I've trained thousands of peer mediators. So these are young people who are mediating their own disputes in school. And through learning how to mediate playground disputes, they're also learning how to manage their own conflict and conflict within their societies and communities. Most of my work has been in schools in areas of severe deprivation and where there's a lot of ethnic conflict. And working with teachers and young people, we do manage to create peace education initiatives that are genuinely transformative in the lives of children and young people in their communities. So, for example, there's a school in Birmingham where they have peace mediators. There's a school in Leeds where every day they sit down, 3 times a week, they sit down in a circle across age groups, and they check in, they check up, and then at the end of the week they check out. They create families. The adults also sit in circles to have their meetings. So these practices are starting to happen and are having real genuine impact in the world. My latest project has been to try to turn the decades worth of my research into an online resource that can be accessed by anybody. And I've been blown away by what you're doing here at Learning Planet Institute over the last few days. And I've discovered that you have your WeLearn platform. This is for the SDGs, but I'd love to do something similar for peace education, so that we've got so many resources all over the world from peace organisations, peace education organisations. We can easily create a database and then support teachers and activists and youth leaders and others to be able to create programmes and sessions that would draw on the best that's out there for peace education. So I'm really excited about that.
Professor Hillary Cremin, thank you very much for joining us. I wish you a very nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. But what would all these projects and ambitions be without the force and the commitment of young activists? We are thrilled to welcome Francisco Vera Manzanares, youngest speaker of the day. Francisco Vera Manzanares, thank you very much for joining us. You're a Colombian climate and human rights activist. You're 16 years old. You work in Colombia as well as in Spain. And you were named by UNICEF as the first youth advocate for environmental and climate action for Latin America and the Caribbean. I guess my question is, as a 16-year-old activist, don't you feel overwhelmed with all these responsibilities that you have engaged?
Well, I thank you very much for the space, first of all, for the opportunity. I'm very happy to accompany you. I wouldn't say I feel overwhelmed, because more than a responsibility, it is a passion, basically. No, activism is not an obligation. Activism is an option. No, you take and a way to live, basically. So actually I see them as an opportunity. Of course, I do, for example, extra effort in school sometimes when I miss school. But I think anyways, if you like what you do, you are taking the good path.
You say that activism is a choice, and you have, I think, a very optimistic way of thinking about activism, and even, like, I guess, how we tend to climate change. You mentioned during the conference you just did that you wanted to move from eco-anxiety to eco-hope. Could you maybe explain that for us, kind of?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Well, that means simply to, first of all, to recognize the current situation. Being eco-hopeful doesn't mean to deny the current chaos. We are, without a doubt, in a chaos, and that chaos is reflected into the several armed conflicts we are facing, into the planetary crisis, into the huge economic inequalities, and into the many other crises that are occurring in our society. No? So this is the reality. The reality of chaos. We need to use the force of chaos, therefore, to change the reality. Yes, eco-hope doesn't come and tell you that no, everything will be fine. No, maybe not everything will be fine, but precisely the question is how we face what is going to come, basically, what is about to come, and how we try to keep us moving, basically, to keep us acting, taking action. That's the point, to take action. There's an international amnesty campaign that I think summarizes it very well, and is taking justice as something personal. Imagine that injustice is happening to someone you love, someone is close to you, basically. And climate is an injustice. Climate change is an injustice, and as many other we have in every corner of our cities.
And yes, you talked about changing, but what kind of changes would you like to be implemented? I mean, in Colombia, but also over the world. What are you advocating for? And especially as a young person, you know, there is this argument that young people are, you know, they're not really heard by political, you know, authorities. So yes. I'd like to know, you as a young activist, how you'd like to implement change and how we can manage to do so.
Well, I think change must be implemented from the bottom of the society towards the rest of the society, basically. Bottom is
from the people.
From
yes.
the people, exactly. From the people. Thank you, thank you. From the people. Basically, I think this is about. There was someone, I don't remember. I was thinking yesterday about that, but there was someone that explained. First of all, you have political changes, then you have social, economics changes, and finally you have cultural changes. Yes. Sorry that I can't quote that person, but it is something like that, basically. No, we have political changes. Politics change very quickly. You know, we have seen since the entrance of Trump how much the world has changed. But the deep change we need is cultural, basically. Is cultural, is in the mindset. Yes. So that's why it is so important not to impose change, but to make change with the people, with the youth, basically, and to make them aware of what is needed, basically, no, to incentivize action from them, yes. So that I think that's the theory of change. We need to make change from in Spanish. There's a word, I don't know how is the translation, but desde la base, yes, from the grassroots.
Yeah.
That grassroots is the word.
The foundations.
From the foundations of our society. So that's what we need. We can I don't know, vote laws for example, banning plastic of single use. We can ban fossil fuels. We can do many things, but as long as we don't change the mindset that the species, the life, and the species, the environment and the nature, we won't really change. Yes.
But at the same time, do we have time? Do we have enough time left to, I guess, not impose or wait for the people to all be? I mean, to have a consensus, to make a change. You know, I don't know if you've heard, but 2025 was actually the third warmest year in the whole, since I think 2010, it was, globally it was the third warmest year.
I know. Yes.
So I wonder, when things are changing so quickly and a change and action needs to be implemented like quickly, how can we manage to make sure that the people are aware of these issues while also making change? What is your perspective on that?
Well, my perspective is actually very, I would say, pragmatic, because the war from 1939 to 1945 saw the Second World War, the most tragic event the humanity has ever witnessed. And during that time period, a nuclear bomb was created. Yes, there was a competition among powers to get that nuclear bomb. Finally, the US got it and launched it over Japan. No, so if we were capable to build a nuclear bomb, a nuclear weapon, in less than 5 years, we can do it. Yes, I mean what I try to say is that this is a question of willingness. Yes, we don't have technical challenges. We don't have the lack of answers. This is not like looking for the cure for the cancer. Yes, we know what we need to do. We need to cut emissions, especially methane. We need to move away from fossil fuels. We need to do all these things. No, and in fact, the parallel to this example I'm giving is precisely the high investment of many countries, not just European countries, but China, Russia, the US, in their military, basically. Basically, we are seeing how the world is preparing for war, while we are not confronting the existential threat we really have, which is climate change. So the question is that we don't have money. No, we have money, actually. But that money is being led, for example, to rearm certain countries. No, this is the point. We need to prioritize life. This is a decision. This is a collective decision we need to make as humanity and as society. We prioritize life over weapons and war and destruction, and not just life, but a life with dignity, a dignified life.
Thank you so much, Francisco Vera Manzanares, for talking with us today. We wish you a happy end of day, happy celebration, and happy festival. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much to you.
Eco-anxiety is a feeling shared amongst younger generation that affects their mental health. We are pleased to have a chat with Dr. Pauline Martinot-Roy about the importance of healing to learn better and change the world. Pauline Martinot-Roy, you've just talked about empowering learners for better future at the Learning Planet Institute. You're a doctor specialized in child and youth nutrition and development. You just talked about Sweden. You talked about Sweden as an example, saying how beneficial implementing mental health can be for women. Could you maybe explain what you meant by that and how mental health can be important for women specifically?
Thank you for your question. When we talk about mental health, it's really a continuum. So it's a global aspect of feeling well in your shoes, feeling that you belong to a community and to a country, and especially having the abilities to fulfill your dreams or implement your life projects. That being said, what Sweden implemented a while ago in the years 2000 is a massive shift from focusing solely on healthcare to take care of people and moving towards empowering the citizens to give them the keys on how to empower themselves on the global life skills. There are 10 life skills that have been identified, mainly the self-esteem, the self-confidence, having the abilities to identify your needs, to communicate them to the others, abilities to cooperate, and all the skills. There are some skills that are not quite innate, and you need to practice them. You need to have lessons about them. You need to have courses and workshops about them, and you can quickly integrate those skills, develop them, no matter which age you are or you have. And that's what happened to Sweden, and they are the number one now in the world in their global healthy lifespan. And they have those amazing results thanks to this massive shift toward empowering people.
Are you, implying that France should be looking towards Sweden and maybe kind of getting influence from Scandinavian countries regarding mental health, or not?
I think my strong belief is that France should be looking at sciences and what science are telling us, no matter if it's cognitive sciences, educational sciences, epidemiology sciences. We just have the same conclusions and results. People are able to be autonomous on their global health. They need some skills, they need to be empowered. And even I had a patient who was 77 years old, and she started to practice how to develop her self-esteem. And in just few workshops, then she was totally amazing, and she had a second life. So no matter which age you are, you're able to develop it quite quickly and have all the skills, like we have all the knowledge. The knowledge exists in the scientific part. Now we need translators to diffuse it largely to the population.
The Learning Planet Festival is about education, about celebrating the International Day of Education. How would you say we should implement mental health, as you said, those sciences, those results into education?
Mm-hmm. Do you mean educational system as a whole, or education meaning like a village? We need a village to raise up kids?
I think more like the educational system, like universities, schools.
So I humbly tried to do so when I was back when I was an advisor to the Minister of Health, and I was in charge of mental health and the health of children. And it was we had some successes where we actually made 7 ministers to agree that all the people working in the public sector should have some knowledge and should follow at least 2 days of workshop to know more about what is mental well-being. And this took 2 years to be implemented. And then you need to convince the top managers, the top administrators, to make sure that they find it to be a priority. Where I failed is that I was not convincing enough the minister. I did not convince enough all the directors put in place. And, some of them said, well, what's the matter today with the young people? You guys are so weak. And, when you don't perceive it, where you have these reactions, it's like you're so far from being able to be a leader in implementing and giving skills to children. I had other remarks that were really condescending or humiliating regarding the young people. They didn't pay attention. They didn't barely pay attention to what the kids needed and were mentioning. And last but not least, I was really honored to receive a mission from one other minister to work on what makes young people become healthy and well in their shoes. And what we did, different from the other state missions, is that we went directly to see the young people, about 300 of them, and we asked them, what would make you feel better in your shoes? And they all worked together. It was an amazing work, amazing experience, and they ended up with 50 proposals. They were really concrete. From at school, we would need a day where we would come at school in pajamas, and we would learn the whole day about how to be empowered on our sleep and how the sleep could give us superpowers in our mental health, in our learnings and stuff. But when we presented the final missions and all the recommendations to the decision makers, so many of them laughed and said, come on, let's be serious. We're not going to organize a day at school where kids go to pajamas. Can you imagine the teachers and the director coming to school in pajamas? That's not serious enough. So the first thing is to convince the adults in place. Second thing is to make it a priority so that we have the power to convince everyone and to make everyone work together to empower the kids. Now we need our leaders to understand the priority.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pauline Martinot-Roy. Thank you very much for joining us, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the festival.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
Well, we're heading towards the end of the festival, but what were the main highlights of the conference and the workshops? Our reporters have paid close attention and will talk us through the day.
Panel that we saw was amazing. The way that we were talking about education through different lenses, both health, futures, the imagination aspect, the peace aspect, very refreshing to see like insights and nuances that can help move education transformation forward.
We're working on intergenerational equity, and something that comes up a lot is peace and security and also education. And so especially the second panel just now, talking about that nexus between peace and education and how connected the two are, that really, really resonated with the work that we do.
I'm passionate about youth engagement, and I think some of the stuff around mental health really stood out for me. Just creating safe spaces, understanding the different things that are affecting mental health. It was so interesting to see countries that are making interventions and really changing perspectives, and others that have a lot to learn.
This is Sarah Lacal. We just got back from the conference, and I think we can talk about how the main idea was that education can be a response to global instability and not just skills training in a very transformative world with technological acceleration, ecological disruption, and geopolitical instability. So the education is not just about awareness, according to our speakers, but also about agency. How do we act in this world? Education itself must be transformed if it's meant to prepare people for this reality. I think that what emerged is a vision of education not as protection from the world, but as a preparation to act within it.
This is Sarah Tiria. People are really thrilled about exchanging ideas together to uplift everyone and try to move together to build a better future. And the conference, the people who talked in the conference and the public were really enthusiastic towards all those ideas.
This is Lucie Le Pellec. Thanks, Sarah and Sarah. I would agree with what you said about the general atmosphere regarding the public and the speakers. People were very excited to, foster an exchange. But if there is one thing maybe that I think could be addressed at the end of today, is the fact that they talked a lot about mobilizing time for teachers to make them aware of climate change issues, eco-anxiety, well-being and mental health. But my thing is, at no point they talked about what money, what funding would be involved in this, because, teachers and teachers' union complain a lot about never having a salary review, but always more work on their shoulders. And actually, this was not mentioned. At no point they talked about if there is going to be a salary review for the teachers or how they're going to be valued with all this work. So, maybe that would be a future concern for a future festival, to how we're going to tackle these teachers' recognition with just more and more work on their shoulders.
This might be over for today, but remember, the festival still goes on until January the 28th. If you want to learn more about the Learning Planet Festival and the Learning Planet Institute, check the Learning Planet Institute website and social media.
This podcast is brought to you by students reading for a master's degree in bilingual journalism at the Sorbonne Nouvelle. It was recorded during the 2026 edition of the Learning Planet Festival and edited by Etienne Carlen of the Learning Planet Institute.